Grinding in GTA Online can either be really boring or really fun depending on which vehicle you're using, and if you've ever watched my guides before and you've wondered how I'm getting some of those completion times when it takes you so much longer to do the same mission or heist, it's probably because you're using the wrong vehicle. So in this video, what I'm gonna do is give you my personal list of 15 of the best grinding vehicles that you must buy if you intend to max out your money grind and make millions of dollars in GTA Online every single day. What's cool about this video is that I'm not just giving you a list of some generic grinding vehicles here. Instead, each one of these is going to be optimized for a specific task. So we've got vehicles for CEO cargo, vehicles for hangar source missions, vehicles for heists, and so on. And for all you newbies in the back who don't have the cash to buy yourself an expensive aircraft, don't worry here, because I'm about to hook you up with some solid budget options as well that will carry you through most of the game until you become rich enough to buy those tier 1 items. However, the first vehicle on my list, the Sparrow Helicopter, certainly lands in a weird spot budget-wise because it's neither cheap nor is it particularly expensive either. In fact, at just $1.8 million, the Sparrow barely costs more than a Benefactor Vorschlag hammer, and while the Sparrow can't pull off sick drifts, it does something much more impressive, getting you from location A to location B really fast. With a top speed of 168 miles an hour, the Sparrow is the fastest helicopter in the game, and if you spend an extra $200,000 to upgrade it with homing missiles, it also turns it into one of the deadliest PvE machines because you can just hover over an area full of NPCs and spam them to death with homing missiles. Unfortunately, it's also very easy to destroy because it's apparently made out of wet paper bags, and a stiff breeze is sometimes enough to turn this thing into a flaming wreck. But the good news is that if your Sparrow does get destroyed, you can just summon a brand new one for free from your Kasaka in just 2 more minutes. Because of the Sparrow's incredible speed and its ability to be summoned right next to you no matter where you are on the map, I rank it as one of the top grinding vehicles in the entire game, especially if you're doing hangar crates or CEO warehouse source missions. And if you're trying to sell multiple vehicles for your bunker or MC businesses, there's nothing in the game that beats a Sparrow for moving between your delivery point and the vehicle spawns. Except for maybe the F160 Raou, of course. This fighter jet is even faster than the Sparrow with a top speed of over 232 miles an hour. In fact, this is actually the fastest vehicle in the game, and if you know anything about grinding, you know just how important speed is. But even better is the fact that the Raou has VTOL mode, allowing it to land and take off just like a helicopter. You don't need a runway, you don't even need a street, you can fly in, shoot the bad guys, and fly back with your cargo. The only real downside here is the size of this jet, which makes it spawn slightly further away compared to the Sparrow, which always spawns right next to you. Then, as minor annoyance here, you've also got that price tag, an eye-watering $6.8 million for the base price, which can go down to a $5.1 million trade price if you successfully complete the on-parade mission within the LSA operations terminal of your Avenger. But if you do own an Avenger with the operations terminal upgrade, I see no reason to not invest in a Raou, as not only is it one of the best crate grinding vehicles in the entire game, but it's also incredible for shooting down those sweat lords and griefers in PvP lobbies with its stealth powers. And now for the ultimate vehicle cargo warehouse grinding tool in the entire game, meet the humble Cargo Bob. With a top speed of just under 100 miles an hour, this isn't a particularly fast helicopter, but then again, it's a heavy hauler and not a speed demon like the Sparrow. And here's how you grind your vehicle cargo the right way. First, arrive at the location, do whatever task you need to do to get your hands on the stolen car, then summon your Cargo Bob and drop that tow hook until it attaches to the car. Now you can fly safely to your vehicle warehouse without having to worry about enemies shooting at you or traffic randomly steering into your pristine supercar and racking up thousands of dollars in damage fees. I also love how Rockstar have put a separate cutscene in the game just for the Cargo Bob vehicle delivery, showing that this is one of the intended methods of delivery, and if you're an OG player, you definitely grinded the hell out of your import-export business back in the day with this helicopter, so you know I'm not lying when I say it's the best tool for vehicle cargo. Okay, maybe I lied a little bit here, because now we've actually got something that's even better for grinding vehicle cargo than the Cargo Bob, and it's called the DH7 Iron Mule. At $2.3 million, it's slightly more expensive, but it's also a lot faster, and it looks cooler, at least to me, because I prefer the look of the King Stallion over the CH-46 Sea Knight. More importantly, the DH7 Iron Mule can lift just as heavy as the Cargo Bob, but it goes a heck of a lot faster at nearly 140 miles an hour, and now thanks to the Safe House in the Hills DLC, we even have a missile jammer available for this heavy lift chopper, which makes it the perfect weapon of choice for delivering your nightclub or even bunker product in crowded public lobbies. My next grinding vehicle is the one that I prefer for missions, whether I'm doing jobs or security contracts or even bail office bounties, and it's the heavily underrated Weaponized Tampa, which a lot of folks tend to sleep on because they notice it has no real armor, but honestly, when you've got firepower like this vehicle, you don't need any armor. As the great Abraham Lincoln once said, The twin roof-mounted minigun is mightier than the shield, and in the case of PvE content, that's absolutely true, because you can now mow down entire crowds of NPCs and literally run circles around them while they scream in terror, helpless against your twin miniguns. Then, if your guns are somehow not enough, you can always surprise them with the front-mounted missile launchers, or the rear-mounted mortars, should anyone try to sneak up on you. And if you ever get into one of those high-speed chases with a ceaseless supply of Merryweather maces on your tail, you've got your trusty proximity mines to keep them away from your vulnerable rear end, which, by the way, is not bulletproof at all, even though it looks like it should be bulletproof. But let's say you're not a fan of how the Tampa handles. You just aren't used to the rear end slipping out from underneath you, and you want a car that has the same roof-mounted firepower as the Tampa, but with a bit more speed at the top end. Well, in that case, there's only one vehicle in the game that fits the bill, and it's the Weaponized Ignis. Fun fact here, according to Bruffy1322's testing, this car is actually faster around a track than an HSW Niobe, and while it will blow up to a single explosive sniper round, it is insanely fast nonetheless with HSW upgrades, so good luck tracking it while it's zooming around the streets at 145 miles an hour. And yeah, the $4.5 million price tag is definitely steep, but this car comes with the machine gun turret included, and it also comes with a free missile lock-on jammer, so the only upgrades you need to make are performance upgrades. Vehicle number 7 on my list is the Toreador, and you might be a little bit confused at this point because just a few years ago, Rockstar blacklisted the Toreador from certain missions and heists, meaning you can't actually use it for most types of PvE content. However, it isn't blacklisted from free roam, and the way I like to use my Toreador is I start up an M-seat or bunker cell mission in a public lobby, I wait for a griefer to inevitably creep up on me, then I summon my Toreador. Usually the griefer is flying around in an Oppressor Mark II or a jet, and that's actually good news here because A, the Toreador's homing missiles are far superior to that of any jet or oppressor, and B, unlike those flying pests, the Toreador has actual armor, which means it can tank multiple homing missiles to the face without blowing up. So basically, you bait them in, you blow them up with your Toreador, and you continue with your cell mission. Kill the griefer a couple times, and they'll think twice before messing with you again. So while the Toreador itself is not a grinding vehicle per se, it's the ultimate bodyguard vehicle for your money grind whenever you're selling in public lobbies, and you can still use it to source cargo for your hangar or for doing jobs like security contracts at your agency, so it's not totally useless in PvE either. And if you're interested in playing the Doomsday heist, good news, because the Toreador can still actually be used in setup missions for that heist. Next, let's talk about some budget grinding vehicles. In my opinion, you really can't go wrong with that Duke of Death, which is free on Warstock cash and carry for every player. This isn't the fastest muscle car out there, but it's more than good enough for any mission or heist you throw it at. Plus, it's armored front to back with heavy plating right from the factory, so even without any upgrades, it will tank 3 RPGs and 9 homing missiles. Then, if you install some Amani Tech upgrades, it can evade homing missile lock-ons altogether, making it a formidable contender in public lobbies. I personally wouldn't recommend using your Duke in a public lobby if you're new, as you'll still get blasted by sweatlords and griefers, but I sure as heck recommend it for heists like the Cluckenbell Farm Raid or Oscar Guzman Flies Again questline, where you do need a bit of armor to protect you from large groups of NPC enemies. However, as good as the Duke is, I think it still has a few chinks in its armor, namely the front driver's side window and the giant gaping hole on the driver's side of the windshield. These are the two places where players can aim in and hit you in the head. However, there's no such weak spot in my next grinding vehicle, the armored Karuma. When you're sitting in this car, you're 100% protected from small arms fire of all kinds, as long as the enemy isn't using FMJ rounds, which NPCs don't use. So if you're just doing PvE content, the Karuma is the ultimate 4-seater for you. It costs just $700,000, and since it has 4-wheel drive, it can handle dirt trails and mud a heck of a lot better than the rear-wheel drive Duke of Death. But let's say you're pretty confident in your aiming skills, so you don't need armor on your vehicle. Instead, you want the cheapest way to speedrun heists like Cluckenbell and No Way Out. Well, I've got the perfect vehicle for you. Meet the Batty 801RR Superbike. It costs just $15,000, but once you max it out with EMS and transmission mods, it will rip a hole through space and time with how fast this thing is. The top speed is 135 miles an hour, which is already super impressive for an OG vehicle in this game, but it also handles like it's running on tires made out of glue. I mean, the way this bike just sticks to the road is truly something to behold in my opinion, and that's why it's one of my favorite vehicles for time trials whenever I'm on a new account. Easy $100,000 every single time, and I also love using it for stash houses, payphone hits, money laundering jobs, pretty much anything that rewards speed over armor. And if you're on a tight budget, there's no better vehicle in the game than the humble Batty 801. Trust me on this one. Once you do get some cash though, I definitely recommend investing that money in an HSW Haku Drag. First, buy the base model for $976,000 from Legendary Motorsport, then take it to House. And if it's your first visit to his workshop, he'll give you the HSW treatment for free. And there's no better vehicle to spend that free upgrade on than the Haku Drag. Simply put, it's the fastest land vehicle in GTA Online, not in terms of top speed, but in terms of getting from point A to point B. Sure, the Banshee GTS is faster in a straight line if there's no traffic, but how often have you come across 2 miles of straights with zero traffic on it while grinding crates or heists? Pretty much never, right? So in the real world, the drag is faster at basically everything. And if you're trying to set speedrun records in No Way Out or Cluck and Bell or even the Oscar Guzman questline, you absolutely need to master the HSW Haku Drag because you can't use your Oppressor Mark II or Sparrow in those heists. However, if you really want to drive a car because you simply cannot get used to the handling of a drag bike, don't worry, I've got you covered. Meet the Vigilante, aka the Batmobile, which is the only weaponized vehicle of its kind with tier 1 homing missiles that can also be used in heists and missions. To Rockstar, this thing is no different than using an armored Karuma or Duke of Death, even though it packs a deadly arsenal of death and a giant rocket motor on the back. What's even more funny here is that with the rocket boost feature, the Vigilante is the fastest non-HSW car in the game, so if you're on last gen, you really should give this one a good look because it makes every single heist 20 times easier. And if you somehow feel like the Vigilante isn't enough of easy mode in this game, try the Oppressor Mark II. What is it good for? Well, everything, honestly. Crate grinding, security contracts, vehicle cargo, salvage yard car robberies, auto shop contracts, FIB files, the Dr. Dre VIP contract. The Oppressor Mark II does everything, and it does it better than every other vehicle in the game, to the point where things almost become boring because you're just flying in, blowing stuff up, and flying away without so much as pressing the trigger on your rifle. The Mark II's only weakness is this insane $8 million price tag, honestly. And even that can be fixed if you own a Terabyte, which coincidentally here also happens to be vehicle number 14 on my list. With the master control terminal upgrade that you get from your garment factory, the Terabyte transforms into a mobile operations center for all your businesses, and it almost feels like driving around in a mansion because you can access stock levels, purchase resupplies, swap DJs, start new crate source missions for your hangar and CEO warehouse. You can do anything you want in your Terabyte, and it's near unkillable in public lobbies with that missile jammer upgrade, so you don't even have to worry about griefers as long as you're seated in this 15-ton behemoth of a truck. As for that Oppressor trade price, just do 5 Terabyte client jobs from your Terabyte vehicle, and you'll drop that $8 million price tag down to just $6 million, which is fitting because the Terabyte is also the only place in the game where you can modify your Mark II. And if you want to install missiles on that flying broomstick, you need a Terabyte, so might as well do the client jobs as a bonus along the way. Lastly, for my ultimate grinding vehicle, I've got the Kasaka, and this ties up the whole list really neatly here because if you remember, my very first grinder's vehicle was the Sparrow, but if you didn't know, you can't actually own one of those unless you have a Kasaka first. So it's a 1-2 package sort of deal here, and I say go for both because without the Sparrow, the Cayo Perico heist takes much longer, but once you have a Sparrow, it can easily be done in 50 minutes or less, and the Kasaka will also pay for itself because each Cayo Perico heist is giving you $1 million on average, and you can recoup your initial investment in just one day. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like on it if you found it informative. Consider subscribing to the channel if you are new and you want to see more GTA Online content just like this. Please check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/hazardoushdtv, and I'll see you guys in the next GTA 5 online video. Adios, amigos.